So Caitlin Clark's going to the WNBA and they're just replacing her with Juju Watkins. That's literally an embarrassment of riches.
I'm not really excited about that.
I bet you aren't,
drop
Miss Michigan
right
State.
There, okay? My Michigan State self. Look, Sharice better not say nothing either, Illinois.
I think it's interesting. I don't think it's fair, but I do think
if you want fair, if you want fair, Sharí, go to a carnival. Okay, go to the fairgrounds. How about that? Y'all, we are so happy to bring on this new guest for our show, the one and only Justin Tinsley, a senior culture and sports writer for Anscape, also is a contributor on Around the Horn. The man has done some phenomenal work, wrote a great book, It Was All a Dream, about Biggie Smalls. And Justin, you have been paying attention so closely to the women's tournament specifically. And the other night, leading into the Final Four, we saw some crazy electric basketball. And I just got to know, man, when you were watching Caitlin Clark go off for 40, Paige and Juju going back and forth, like what resonated with you the most from those games, man?
You know what it really reminded me of? It reminded me of 12, 13-year-old me in my living room watching like Monday Night Raw, and you never knew what was going to happen. Then out of nowhere, like Stone Cold Steve Austin's music would come on, like, oh man, what's going on? Like LSU was just up 8. Then, Iowa just stormed back. And there's so many storylines within the game. And I think that's the most beautiful part of it, because obviously you focus on the artistry that is just, getting up and down the court, playing defense, setting up your offense. But you know that there's stories within the game. You know that, like, all right, Caitlin Clark came back for this moment to get back to the Final Four. And to get to the Final Four, she has to beat the team, or her team has to beat the team that beat them in the national championship last year. So I just remember watching it, and my wife was watching it with me too, and she was pulling for LSU. But if you know my wife, she feels like every time I watch a team that I like, they end up losing. So like LSU was up 8, and then she looked at the TV again. She was like, yeah, I'm going to bed because they're down 6. There's been like a 14-point turnaround. So it was, for me, it was just watching the stars of today, which is obviously, the names like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, and Flau'jae is already a star, but I'm calling it right. I'm not even a bettor. I don't even gamble like that. Flau'jae is an All-American next year. She's going to be preseason All-American next year. And she's going to be one of the great players to follow out of so many. So for me, it was just, Chris, it was just like, I'm watching beautiful basketball, but I also watch like a lot of Bravo TV with my wife. And I love some pettiness.
Same here,
I love
dog.
some messiness. I love some storylines within the storyline. So it's just beautiful, man. And I know y'all have talked about it plenty of times before, and I'll just say it. It's like the women's game has always been beautiful. It's always been really like watching art paint itself in real time. But now you see the collective investment. And I'm not just talking about TV. I look at over the course of this tournament, Caitlin's been in commercials with Nike and, State Farm. Juju's been in the AT&T commercial with Jalen Brunson. And like you see all these women just being like marketed as, women outside of the game. And that endears people to the game. We see it all the time with the men's side in pro basketball. So I know that's my very long, exasperated way of saying, like, I was on the edge of my seat the entire night. Regardless of what the outcomes I wanted to be, it was just beautiful basketball. And now we got a hell of a Final Four on our hands.
We do, Justin. First off, I'm super excited to have you on the show. I've seen Justin twice in like the last week. And so I don't know why. I mean, I'm feeling real blessed right now. Okay. But, I loved the essay that you penned and voiced for Juju Watkins. I watched it a few times, right? And more so than what you discussed in the essay was the fact that you decided to do one. Yeah. I think that one of the things that has plagued this league is not the competition. It's not the ability for these women to play at the highest level, even collegiately. It's just that no one sees them, no one writes about them, no one talks about them, not to the level that they do their male counterparts. And so it was great to see so much effort in everything that you do. You know, you put your best into, but it was just great to see something about a player on the women's side, but more so Juju, because she's amazing, right?
Yeah.
So if you can just kind of talk a little bit about what that process was in terms of why Juju Watkins. And I know that you have a history with LA. I know your relationship to LA, but just kind of talk a little bit about why that. And as a two-parter to that, how that plays a role in the coverage that we're seeing with women's basketball.
I mean, I think that's a really beautiful question, both of them, honestly. So, I've been doing the essays for like Sports Center and maybe like College Game, because I'll answer your second question first, and then I'll go back to Juju. So you remember growing up, and there used to be like NBA on NBC, and it'd be like Bulls versus Knicks on your Sunday afternoon game, but like right before the game, like Marv Albert or Bob Costas would give like this dramatic intro. You'd be like, damn, I knew the game was important, but now I want to follow like each dribble. I want to follow the story within the game. And at ESPN, I found that there was a lane for that. Like, storytelling still matters. And storytelling is how you get people to embrace the sport at large and the people within the sport. So, I've always been doing that. And like Juju, I remember you mentioned I used to live out in LA. So I got a lot of homies that still live out there in LA. And like one of my homeboys from like Crenshaw area, like really from that area, you know what I'm getting at when I say that. He called me one day, maybe about like 2 years ago. He was like, "Yo, Tins, you need to come out to LA and do this story on this young girl out here. She be killing cats." I'm like, "What's her name?" He was like, "Her name is Juju Watkins." And like she go to Sierra Canyon. She there with like Bronny and like all the other people. Be like, "You need to come see her, cuz." And I was like, "All right, let me look it up." And I'm like, "Damn, like she can hoop." Like, and I was like, "Yo, her game is like really like silky smooth." It's like, a lot of people, Dame tweeted last night, like, "Yo, she's like Carmelo in college. Just get her the ball if you want to win." Like, if you go back and watch Carmelo at Syracuse that one year he was there, and you put them side by side, it's almost ridiculous how much they mirror each other. And I was like, I've just been following her since then. And obviously, she broke a record like very early on in the season. I think it was like Lisa Leslie's freshman scoring record for like most 30-point games or something like that. And I remember I tweeted, I was like, "Look, if you don't know her name, just give it till March. Just give it till March. She will make an introduction." And, I've just been following her and obviously following the different storylines throughout the game. And I went to my guy over at Sports Center, and I'm like, "Yo, I'm actually working on a written piece on Juju, but I would love to add like a video component." And I just wanted to tell people that, like, yes, she's an incredible basketball player, but the more she's in this national spotlight, we're going to see that her importance matters beyond the game. And for me, when I look at Juju, and this may be like a weird comparison, but like for me, it's hard to think of March Madness without Nipsey Hussle anymore, because the day before he died, he was at, I believe it was Texas Tech Gonzaga for the Elite Eight. They were going to the Final Four. And for me, it's just really hard to think about March Madness without thinking about him. And he was somebody who was so obviously invested in his community and like really poured into his community. And if you really peel back the layers on Juju, she's only 18, but she has that same sort of mindset. It's the reason why she stayed at USC when she could have went to South Carolina. And oh my God, can you imagine Juju on South Carolina?
No.
Like there wouldn't even be a need to play the Final Four. But again, that's just my way of saying, like, I wanted to highlight her. Yes, she's incredible on the court, but there's so much about Juju Watkins that's going to matter so much more as the years go along, because she's going to continue to pour this investment into her community. And obviously she's moving to the Big Ten next year. So right. Caitlin Clark's going to the WNBA, and they're just replacing her with Juju Watkins. That's literally an embarrassment of riches.
I'm not really excited about that.
I bet you are, Miss Michigan State.
Okay? My Michigan State self. Look, Sharice better not say nothing either, Illinois.
I think it's interesting. I don't think it's fair, but I do think
if you want fair, if you want fair, Sharí, go to a carnival. Okay, go to the fairgrounds. How about
that? I'll give you that, Chris. And Justin, you talk a lot about storylines and connectivity, and in watching these games, I've been chatting even with my own village about just how some of these great games translate at the next level. You talk about a Juju, who I think is just primed and ready right now if she went to the league to be one of the best. When we think about her, when we think about Caitlin Clark, Paige Beckers, we'll see what Angel Reese decides to do with these top tier players that are getting so much attention. Who's the player you're most excited to see at the next level? Whose game do you think is going to translate best? And whose game would you say, hey, they're turning up here at the collegiate level, but at the professional level, they may struggle a bit?
That y'all been asking some really good questions. And I think the beautiful thing about the women's game is that, and of course, this gets into entirely other conversations around, pay inequality and when they can go to the pros and when they can't. But the beautiful thing about the women's game, especially right now, is they can invest in their college stars because they can't go to the pros like 1 year after they're there. So you buy into their storylines, you buy into their style of play while they're in college. And by the time they get to the WNBA, they're already ready-made superstars. And I think when you look at the NBA, that's where they kind of struggle because their stars and their storylines are manufactured within the league.
Yeah.
Obviously, every now and then you get like a Zion Williamson to come out, and obviously you know who he is. But like, as you just named the names, like we could be looking at 3 of the top 4 being obviously Caitlin Clark being number 1. Cardoza, she just announced that she's going pro. She projected to go 4th overall. If Angel Reese decides to go, like, do you have 3 legitimate top tier superstars going into the league? And then you have that investment of course, the Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese game. So whatever, Indiana and whatever team Angel Reese ends up on, those games are going to be appointment viewing. Those games are going to be on primetime television, and the game will continue to grow after that. So that's my way of saying that I think all of them will translate well. Now, I think Caitlin Clark playing with Aaliyah Boston in Indy, that's an inside-outside game that is going to be hell for opponents to start. Because you can double Aaliyah Boston, you're going to leave Caitlin Clark wide open. And keep in mind, Caitlin Clark's court vision may be her most underrated aspect of her game.
Yeah.
So, I
have so many thoughts on that Indiana roster because you know me, I'm probably the one up here that's gonna present the most questions as it relates to that roster. That's just me, looking at it from let's keep it a buck here now. You got 3 ball hogs on that roster. Who gonna get the ball?
Hey.
Wait, you know what? Look, here's the thing.
But that's just me. We ain't got to go there today. We ain't got to go there today. And I don't mean ball hog, just so that we're clear. I don't mean ball hog in a negative way. I just mean you have players on that team who perform incredibly well with the ball in their hands.
Yeah. Well,
and so I'm concerned with how that roster is going to function.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, T.
Such players.
I'm rewatching The Wire right now, right? And one of my favorite quotes from The Wire is Marlo. He was like, that sounds like one of them good problems. You give me them 3 on the team, we will figure it out.
I mean, you ain't wrong. You ain't wrong.
Hey, Caitlin, you may not average 30. You may average 25, but you also going to get 11, 12 assists out of it too.
Yeah,
so
and that's okay.
Okay, Sharí, I think you said the one player whose game
may struggle a bit. They may need a little bit more time to adjust at the next level.
I think if you put Angel Reese on a team that still needs like a point guard to facilitate the offense. Now, obviously, Angel Reese used to play point guard when she was in high school before her growth spurt, of course. But I think Angel Reese, it would best benefit her to be on a team that already has like a floor general out there. Like, Angel, you get right there. You get right there. She's going to be a star. And she's going to have so much star power going into the league that like I hope these front offices, and this isn't just the WNBA. We talk about the NFL. We talk about it in the NBA, whatever. Like these front offices have to do their job. Like if you're going to get a star of this level, you can't just get a star at this level and be like, oh, well, she'll figure out the rest. Like, no. Like it's used a cross sports example. You see what the Bears are trying to do for presumably Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
Like, this is the best team that a number one pick is going to go to, at least in my memory. So when we look at Angel Reese, I just hope she goes to a team that has, that floor general already in place, because if so, I mean, that she a dog. She's going to get you 15 and 10 off the humble. You get her a dog point guard, up that to like 20 and 12. So